Welcome to the InHer Circle podcast with MsHoliness, bringing you a dose of inspiration where she takes you from the ground to greatness, starting now.
Welcome, people of purpose. This is the InHer Circle podcast, episode 17, entitled Limitless Possibilities. I am MsHoliness, and I am so happy that you decided to tune in with me for a dose of inspiration. But before we get started, here's a recap of the last episode. So the last episode, which was episode 16, was entitled Be Fearless. Okay? Be fearless. And being fearless encompasses moving from a place of fear to fearlessness, where you begin to see everything that you've ever thought of, fathomed, or imagined begin to come to fruition as a result of you having moved past fear. Because it is the case that when you move past fear and you're operating from a place of fearlessness, that you begin to make things happen. You don't let anything inhibit you from getting things done. Do you hear what I'm saying to you? You don't let anything stop you from getting it done, whatever your it is. Let's get into it. So as I first stated, today's episode is episode 17, entitled Limitless Possibilities. Limitless Possibilities. So I want to take a moment, you guys, to define what it means to be limitless. I am literally going to give you the definition for the word limitless, and then I'm going to do the same thing for the word possibilities. So limitless, without end, limit, or boundary. Possibilities, things that may happen, have the capability to happen, or be the case. Now, when you combine the two words, we get the phrase limitless possibilities, which is a phrase or term, so to speak, that we've all heard a time or two. Agreed? Yeah, I think we would all agree. However, when you hear the term limitless possibilities as it relates to you and your capabilities, what exactly comes to mind? Okay? What exactly comes to mind? I want you to stop and think about that for a moment, where you're taking the essence of the question that I just posed to you. That was our moment. All right, so did you all take it in? I hope you all took it in. Okay, cool. With that being said, let's continue. So when combined, the phrase limitless possibilities actually suggests that if one being a person, okay, as in you and me, that when one truly believes that there are limitless possibilities in life, that they in turn, and when I say they, I'm talking about you and me again, you and I, that they in turn see no limit to what is achievable and what could be made possible as people moving through life with purpose. So let's dive right into it. One may argue that in order to live your life to the degree that you believe that whatever you think possible is possible and can happen is attached to becoming a version of your absolute self, which many might call the higher self or true self, which in essence just means that, like me, you're in tune with who you are. And that essentially you're in tune likewise with what you've been called to do in life. So it's just a matter of tapping into your purpose from an absolute state, a sure state of being, a true state of being. So that's what an absolute state is. And I want you to keep that term in mind, absolute state. So we're just going to take a really quick commercial break and we'll be right back.
Want to get the word out? Want to promote your business? Great. For sponsorship opportunities, email inhercirclepodcast@gmail.com. That's InHerCircle podcast@gmail.com. And now, back to our show.
So we're back from the commercial break, and as the ad suggested, if any of you are interested in a sponsorship opportunity where you advertise or showcase your business with us, let us know, because now you know what to do to make that possible. So yes, you guys, on today's episode, we are talking about limitless possibilities, and that having the ability to flow heavily from this belief, in my humblest of opinions, is a direct correlation to us as people of purpose, possessing the ability to live in our purposes from an absolute state. Remember I told you to keep that phrase, absolute state, in mind. So let me break it down for you. An absolute state is basically the adage that you are moving through life with absolute resolve, likewise with absolute sovereignty and with absolute authority. So with absolute resolve, and what absolute resolve simply means is that you are moving through life with no restrictions, okay? No restrictions by governing forces, by laws or other said forces that are put in place to come against you. All right? Or other said forces that would essentially be adverse while pursuing purpose. Same absolute authority is the adage that you are in control. And what I mean by in control, like you're not in control of your total self, but you're in control of your highest self, in the sense that you have discipline. All right, you have discipline, and you bring your discipline into subjectivity of your divine destiny, to the degree that you move with a level of authority when it comes to bringing the plans for your life to fruition. So with that being said, now we know what those several key terms mean. I just want to reiterate what absolute state is. So an absolute state is the adage that you are moving through life, okay, with absolute resolve, absolute sovereignty, and absolute authority, which says that according to the beliefs that you hold, and not just you, okay, that we are co-creators of our own destinies. And I say co-creators because there is a source greater than us all that essentially has mapped out a destiny for both you and me. And that this said divine source has in fact equipped us with a power, prowess, and presence to the degree that we have the ability to tap into our destinies and will them to the degree that we bring them to fruition in excellence, okay? That we cause them to come to fruition in excellence. Now, this may not be your divine source, but my divine source, of course, is God, Holy Spirit, as I am a believer of the Christian faith. So I am mindful of the fact that in the grand scheme of things, God made some pretty awesome and amazing plans for my life, okay? Which were mapped out for my life from the beginning, and that it was just a matter of me becoming. And this is not just the case for me. Like, there have been some awesome and amazing plans mapped out for all of our lives in the grand scheme of things. It's just a matter of learning how to tap into that essence. Okay, so I want to digress back to it's just a matter of becoming. So yes, I said it's just a matter of becoming in the sense of becoming aware, where mindfulness is exercised. And when I talk about mindfulness, I'm just talking about being conscious of what you say, what you do, and how you do a thing, to assure that what we as people of purpose think and or communicate in terms of thoughts and ideals properly align with our life paths. And our life paths in the sense of while we are pursuing destiny and bringing purpose to fruition. So you see, this aligning that I speak of, this alignment, it is an important tool when manifesting, or rather co-creating your destinies per se, as it is designed to help aid and guide our actions when materializing said plans that have been made for our lives from the beginning. So when I talk about materializing said plans, it's just a matter of us as co-creators bringing these plans to light, and doing so with surety and with clarity, because we want to be clear. All right. So it is safe to say that in my case, the clarity that comes with my alignment comes from God, and that was only made possible in my case to the degree that I was able to build a oneness with God. And in turn, to the degree that I was able to believe God exists in everything, and that God, who is Holy Spirit, governs all things. In keeping, I discovered the hierarchy of the divine, in the sense that God is in everything, and not just in everything, but I came to the realization and to the resolve, like it means I'm sure, I'm resolute, that God is also in me. You hear what I'm saying to you? And through that discovery, I was able to tap into the truest form of myself, which, like I first stated, is better referred to as your higher or highest self, so to speak. And in doing so, it has enabled me to hear from God at uncommon levels as a result of me being tapped into the oneness of my true self to that degree. However, I want you to understand, according to belief, that you too have the ability to tap into the divine source to the degree that your destinies are likewise revealed to you. In other words, this kind of revelation will make plain to you what you've been purposed to do. And not only make plain to you what you've been purposed to do, but it'll likewise guide you on a sure path to assure that you arrive at your manifested destinies with surety. So with that in mind, now that you know, what do you do with what you know? Like, what do you do? I want you to take a moment to really think about that. But for me, it's simple. I practice mindfulness. Okay, I practice mindfulness from an absolute, resolute state that gives me access and authority to be able to speak what I seek until I see. In my case, until I see what God, Holy Spirit, said from the beginning for me and about me, where my destiny is concerned. Because in the grand scheme of things, what God, Holy Spirit, has willed and authorized for not only my life, but for all of our lives, with us as co-creators, of course, is what was planned from the beginning. And as a result, when we're moving on our paths forward to purpose and destiny, we have the ability while on our course to see everything that has been planned for our life by the divine source come to fruition and be made manifest. So in short, the adage limitless possibilities entails, it speaks to us, you and me, about co-creating and manifesting the outcomes that have already been mapped out and predestined for our lives, according to what already was and is. And that as people of purpose, our primary responsibility is to see it through. According to divine planning and implementation, simply by believing it's possible. Now we're just going to jump into today's hot button topic. So for today's hot button topic, we're going to talk about Roe v. Wade. So you guys, as I'm sure you've all watched in the media, saw it on the news, as I know I have, the overturning of Roe v. Wade, and how essentially they just took women's right to decide, to make a choice. And I'm going to say this as a disclaimer. So in my own life and all across the board, I used to be pro-choice when I was more liberal in my ideals and approach to life, before I got the call to the gospel. For those of you who don't know, I am a resigned medical social worker. Social workers are all about equity and justice. So I'm about equity, justice, and fairness. All right. So this Roe v. Wade ruling is a little touchy for me in the sense of just, Adrian of old was pretty much pro-choice. I didn't have an opinion about it either way. I just had to resolve that if that was what a person chose to do, they just needed to be able to live with whatever they decided to do. Now, Adrian, the apostle prophet of the Lord, the prophetess who foresees and foretells events, the woman who is now pro-life, all right? And I want to clarify some things. I'm pro-life in my life. I still feel that people should have a right to choose what they decide to do. I am not for murder of children of any kind, so I don't want anybody to take this the wrong way and think that that is what I am saying. But I far well know, as a woman living in America, that sometimes people can get raped, be it date rape or being raped or offended by a stranger. You know what I'm saying? Like being assaulted against your will as a woman. So in that sense, I think that overturning this ruling was a little bit insensitive, or a lot insensitive towards women. And I'm trying to be careful with my words, you guys. But at the same time, I do think in instances where people are not being sexually assaulted, that people should ultimately control their fertility. And I've always had this thought, all right? I feel like at a point, and I'm not talking about adolescents, I know they make mistakes. I'm talking about for informed, grown, consenting adults. Not people who are, like I said, date raped, sexually assaulted, and things like that. But I feel like at a point, people should be more cognizant of their actions as it pertains to sexual encounters. And if it seems like I'm tiptoeing on this thing, I am. All right, I am. And I seek not to be offensive, but I know that many will be offended. Many, okay? Because I'm saying it like this. I'm just trying to say it as politically correct as I can. And I'm typically not anyone who tries to be politically correct. You guys, if you guys watch me all over social media, you'll gather that. But in this instance, this is touchy. So I know personally people who have had abortions, all right, for whatever reason. I'm not going to go into that. Because again, perfectly, that's their choice. I always say you have to do what you can live with, do what you can stand. But I think even though I'm pro-life, I don't feel like it was government's responsibility to take people's choice. In that sense, it almost feels like a dictatorship, like communism. And see, this is where it gets tricky for me. In the kingdom of heaven, all right, I am all for pro-life. But on the other end of the paradigm, like in the world, I'm not a part of the world. I just live here, okay? Christians believe that standard thought too, so they understand what I just said. So I don't partake in the fare of this world. But at the same time, the world has its own system. So the world's system is not congruent with the Christian's world system. Does that make sense? And I just really feel like the pro-lifers have crossed those boundaries. I really do. So I believe like there are boundaries in everything. All right. Boundaries, like you have boundaries with the sea, the shoreline. You have boundaries with states. You know, other states don't spill over into other states. Like there are just boundaries. And I really feel like the pro-lifers movement, which is predominantly like Christian in nature. I don't know if they're Lutherans, Methodists. I don't know what they are. I just call myself a believer because I am a devout follower of Christ. I don't subscribe to any denomination. If you were to put me in a box, 'cause I know you're like the box Christians in, put me under the category of holiness. All right. Holiness is still right. Obeying God is still right. Doing what God has called you to do is still right in my heart and in my mind. But I can speak to this dynamic too. When it comes to gay rights, all right? So this gets kind of tricky. I'm going to touch on this for us, a small space. When it comes to gay rights and religion, you guys, they took religion out of schools, okay? I see where they did that. They took prayer out of public schools. They took Bibles out of public schools. We saw that. And they instituted an awareness. They instituted an awareness of the LGBTQ and the other community. I saw where that happened. Totally not discriminatory against religion or the gay and lesbian communities. Totally not. So I just want to say this. I've seen other instances where lines have been crossed, boundaries have been crossed, and one sect of moral values have spilled over into another sect of moral values. So the same way that children are being force-fed with these alternative ways of being and living as male and females, I feel like that's kind of the same thing that is happening in terms of pro-lifers' agenda spilling over to pro-choice persons per se way of living, thinking, and being. Okay, so we have one moral compass and then we have another. And it seems that these lines are getting blurred. Like, all these fine lines are being crossed. And I don't really know how we begin to fix or remedy this problem to a degree, because it seems that everyone is just so passionate about their cause and that their way is right. All right, their way is right. But at the same time, I do believe that women, okay, this is not speaking to me. It's already told y'all how I feel. But if I get pregnant, if I pop up pregnant, y'all, I'm having my baby. That's just my thoughts. So for women, not for me, this is not speaking to me, because if I pop up pregnant, I'm keeping my baby. But what I am saying is that I feel that women, period, should reserve the right to have a choice. And that's my thought on that. But before I go, on Sunday, June the 26th, all right, which was 2 days ago, I released a prophetic word that the Lord had given me. And there were two things in particular that I was given. The fact that we're going to see a lot of picketing, which means people are going to rally together and lobby for a cause. And I believe that some of that is going to be tied to this Roe v. Wade decision as a direct result of the Supreme Court overturning Roe v. Wade. And likewise, another thing that Holy Spirit breathed into my spirit in terms of affirmation. And now, you guys, I call it affirmation because it comes from God, who is my Alpha and Omega. If you read the Bible, if you've ever read the Bible, or if you read the Bible, you understand that basic concept, okay? So I just want to go to the prophetic word that I released concerning Roe v. Wade. And I want to kind of like paraphrase it for you. I do. If you guys are intending to see the prophetic release where I release this affirmation, you can perfectly go over to MsHoliness Writes on Facebook, and all the prophetic releases and addresses that I've done to date are right over there. Okay? So I'm just going to paraphrase like I first stated, but as a result of this overturning of Roe v. Wade, the Lord showed me where people were going to begin to go to drastic measures to get abortions, like traveling outside of their states, traveling outside of borders. And when I say states, for instance, like Pennsylvania is a commonwealth. And even though the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, it has no bearings on the state of Pennsylvania, where I'm from. I'm actually from the state of Pennsylvania. I'm from Philadelphia. So it actually has no bearings, on the state of Pennsylvania. And I'm sure there are other states out there like that. So essentially, people are going to go above and beyond to still get these procedures done. All right. And in many cases, they're going to be getting illegal procedures, because I'm sure that if Philadelphia is like one of 5 places where you can still go and have procedures done, it is going to be booked to capacity. So essentially, they're going to travel outside of the U.S. borders, all right, to go have procedures performed. And likewise, Holy Spirit showed me where some of these women are going to resort to taking generic and synthetic abortion pills off of the black market. And Lord only knows what you're ever getting off of the black market. People are so salacious in nature that they will essentially sell you anything for a quick dollar, especially with this economy that we're living in today. So all of it in my mind is just a really bad state of affairs, you guys. And it was also made known to me that we're going to see some fatalities as a result of people traveling outside of the borders and taking these illicit abortion pills off of the black market in order for these women to terminate their pregnancies. And in my mind, I'm like, why would you want to put people in precarious situations where their life and their health are put at risk? That's just my thoughts, you guys. Well, that concludes our talk for today. Thank you for joining me for episode 17 of the InHer Circle podcast, entitled Limitless Possibilities. With questions and comments, text 484-393-2730, keyword the InHer Circle Live. To connect with the InHer Circle podcast, follow us on Twitter at the InHer Circle, on Instagram at the InHer Circle _podcast, and on Facebook at the InHer Circle podcast. For sponsorship opportunities, email us at inhercirclepodcast@gmail.com. Well, this is MsHoliness signing out. I look forward to you joining me for the next episode, where I aspire to lift you higher.